Welcome to the Town Hall Get to Know broadcast. We welcome you this evening. We have a very special guest tonight, Dr. and Reverend Winn Henderson, and we are going to be talking about addictions. When we're going to be talking about addictions from the standpoint of all different types of addictions, as well as solutions to be able to overcome addictions. I'm just so honored and blessed to be able to have Dr. Winn with us this evening, and he actually has written 44 books. He's written a couple that are definitely solutions to this addiction situation. And what I'd like to do now is just ask everybody that might be watching on YouTube or you're watching on Facebook, share this video out. This is going to be a great video or show, excuse me. And the bottom line is that there's going to be great solutions here. It's going to bring up the awareness if you maybe knew somebody that was suffering with an addiction of any sort, or have yourself, or are. We're going to give you some solutions this evening, and we're going to help you through this. And you're going to also have the opportunity to be able to reach out directly to Dr. Winn and speak with him directly. And so I want you to stay with us. Glue yourself to this broadcast. Don't leave, because if you do, you're going to miss something that's really super important. Okay. We've got a lot to cover tonight, but let me just tell you a little bit about Dr. Winn. He graduated from the University of Florida, and he studied at the University of Alabama School for Medicine. He currently lives in Sylva, North Carolina. He is a doctor, a reverend, and author, like I said, of 44 books. He's an artist and a spiritual counselor as well. And he is also the host of a long running show, 20 years, I believe, at this point now, called Share Your Mission. He's been on a mission to serve the community. And of course, the Town Hall Get to Know broadcast. That's what this is about. This is about influential people who are making a positive impact in their community. Now, you might be suffering from an addiction, or you might know somebody that's suffering from an addiction, or maybe it even was your parents that had the addiction. And so the bottom line is that hopefully we'll be able to give you some information tonight that will help you understand that a little bit better. I want to let you know, don't blame yourselves for your situation. Okay. I mean, we do make some choices, we get involved in things. But blaming yourself is not going to be a solution to this for sure. We're going to try and fix that. And we want to help people that want to help themselves. Absolutely, 100%. Freedom from Addiction is a book that Dr. Winn has written that has this solution in it. So we're going to talk to you about that. And really, truly, without any further ado, I would like to bring Reverend and Dr. Winn Henderson into the studio. Here we go. Well, welcome, Reverend Winn. How are you this evening?
Well, I'm doing really well, Stephen.
Awesome. Thank you so very much for joining us this evening. I'm so glad that you're here tonight. We're going to be talking about addictions, all sorts of addictions, right? But I also know that you have something that you wanted to read for the viewers, and that it was really important to you. And it's an open letter from addiction to the world.
That's right, Stephen. It's the first thing that you look at when you open my book, Freedom from Addiction 3. And, when people ask me, what do you do? And they say, well, you treat drug addiction and alcohol and tobacco. And I said, yeah, but those aren't even the most common addictions in the world. But we're going to start with the issue of drug addiction to get you going. And you have to realize that this is a spiritual program. It's not a secular program like the other 1,400 plus programs in the country. So here we go. It takes, I think, about 8 minutes. And I'm going to read you a letter from addiction to the world. My name is Addiction. I am waging war against all nations and do not plan to take prisoners. Like a thief in the night, I will pillage your people, rob them of their dignity, peace of mind, and eventually their lives. The world will be in shambles before I'm finished. The more the merrier. Red, yellow, black, white, none are precious in my sight. Rich or poor, I have no favorites, but must admit I have fun picking on the sad and lonely, the weak and sick, and I really get a kick out of young people who do not have a clue. It's a quick seduction to entangle them in my web. They are mine from a single puff on a reefer to the pop of a rubber band, and from the first taste of liquor to the bottle's last drop. It's easy to enslave them on social media screens, entice them into sexual promiscuity, and convince them that they need a cigarette or another Twinkie. There are over 20 addictive behaviors in my arsenal. Yes, that's my greatest thrill. Enslave them young, and I will have them for life. Now, don't get me wrong. I was invited to this party, and they made me the main attraction. And realizing that I was in the land of the innocent, I took advantage like a fox in a hen house. Just try a little, I would whisper. That's all it takes. A small temptation to get them started, and they do the rest. Making sure that they have all the crappy dope and the cheap liquor they need is easy. They will snort, shoot, or drink anything. It's really fun to put pesticides and all manner of trash in their stash. It's like watching an already dead man's duel with a pistol and one bullet. They soon become mine because there are only 5 empty chambers. AIDS really adds another level of satisfaction. My ultimate thrill is to watch them struggle in pain as their emaciated bodies lay dying. The last words they speak are often these: "What have I done to myself?" When they're dead and gone, I get a bonus. The lives of their family is in tatters. The family is grieving because they fiercely loved you, my prey. The damage of addiction is vast, wide, and long. Mother dies from heartache, but the real culprit was all the grief and stress that she went through. Daddy does not linger long either. Why stay when all his money was gone before they buried you? It does appear there is one thrill left. Your parents both go to their grave wondering if they will meet you in heaven. They are not sure because the last time they saw you on earth, you were blaming all your problems on them, cursing them, and demanding money. Your daddy always felt the bad choices that he had made in his life somehow rubbed off on you. Just to let you know, I did get a kick out of watching you cringe in the corner as you watched your daddy beat your mother. Unfortunately for me, they both got it right with God before they died, and he rescued their sorry souls. Most of your brothers and sisters rarely think of you today. They are just glad to be rid of the guilt, shame, and embarrassment they felt every time they looked to the shell of humanity that you ended up being. Now, the game is not quite finished. Your little brother was closely watching all your debauchery, and now he thinks he might give it a try. And surprise, surprise, you left a baby in the belly of your last partner, a baby that does not have a chance. He is just your last sacrifice. You turned out just like I wanted, completely destroyed inside and out. Your eyes are yellow from all the booze. Hepatitis and liver damage would have killed you anyway, but it gives me great joy to announce that your appetite for a momentary escape from reality took you much sooner. A shell of your former self, alone without family, you left this world high as a kite, in total oblivion of the darkness you were about to enter. The darkness filled with all the rejected, discarded souls that I have tortured and killed. Your so-called friends stole your few possessions at the end, and disappeared in the night before your body was cold. And 911 never got a call. I feel like gloating. You lost the chance to make a change. All the talk of repentance and redemption went right over your head. Like a sheep led to slaughter, you were an easy target. Had you known a very simple prayer, you would have not been easy to reel in. We may have never met. Your parents were older when they finally changed their ways, much too late to do you any good. I waited patiently until I knew you were ready. I pretended to be your friend, bolstered your low self-esteem, and made you temporarily feel like a king. But only temporarily, I am proud to say. And just a footnote to rub it in, you could have been a man with everything. A nice family, a beautiful home, pillar of the community, respected by all your family and friends. Your life could have been filled with purpose as you reached out to help your fellow man. You could have had all this peace, joy, and happiness in life if you had opened your eyes and realized your value as a child of God. If you had allowed him into your life to be your constant friend and advisor. God gave you all the tools you needed to complete your mission in life, but you didn't use them. And yes, one simple prayer, dear God, please save me through the blood of Jesus Christ, would have protected you from me. You know, just the mention of those names, God and Jesus, completely steals all my joy. And that's the reason I keep my flock under the influence, so they cannot hear the sweet voice of Jesus calling them, come home, my child, come home. Yes, that is what you are, a lost child who ran out of chances. You are now lost in darkness, and you are now forever mine. And now, I'm sure you can figure out the rest of the story. It's been a pleasure wrecking your life and stealing your soul. Your friend, addiction, also known as Satan. I can't hear you, Stephen.
Thank you, Reverend Winn. That was very powerful and very true. That addiction, particularly I think with alcohol, really desires to kill us. It wants to take us to the bottom. And I believe that there is a solution. I know that there's all kinds of different addictions. Maybe you can explain to the viewers about addictions. What is the cause of an addiction, Dr. Winn?
Sure, Stephen. I've been doing this work for close to 40 years, and I have found out that the cause of all addictive behaviors is the same cause. And the cause is low self-esteem. You don't value yourself enough. You don't understand how important and wonderfully made that you are, and that God has given you a purpose. You may not have figured it out yet, or you may know what it is but refuse to do it, but you have a reason for being created. And in doing what that purpose is a great portion of the problem of solving your disease with addiction. Now, let me define addiction, because if you think that I'm talking about the homeless alcoholic under a bridge somewhere, that's your idea of addiction, then you're not going to include yourself. But there are over 30 different types of addictive behaviors, none any better than the others, none any worse. They're all caused by the same thing. They can all be treated the same way, and they have the same cure rate. So we'll get into that a little later in the program, but there are over 30 different things, and you will identify with one or more, I feel sure.
Yeah, 30 different things, yeah. And so there's all kinds of different stuff that we can be doing that in the end, it sounded to me like what you were saying is that it all comes down to self-esteem. Would that be correct?
That's right. That's right. And and we can talk about that in more detail. But
Okay.
um, let me
Well,
let me
tell
tell
us.
you
Yeah, go ahead.
let me
I was
tell
going to
you
say,
what
tell us about the addictive behaviors.
I'm not hearing you, Stephen.
I was just saying, tell us about the addictive behaviors.
Yeah, I will. But first, I want to talk to you about the symptoms of
The
addiction.
symptoms. Sure.
Okay. Now, symptoms are what doctors use to diagnose medical problems. And they take your history and they ask you, have you had a cough? Have you had fever? Right. And then they add up all those symptoms and they say, based on my medical training, I think you've got so and so. And then they might do a physical examination or laboratory test to prove that. But they start off with symptoms. So we have the same thing with addiction. And I'm going to tell you the symptoms of addiction. And here's what I want you to do. While I am running through the list, I want you to count up on your fingers, or if you run out of fingers, um, you can count your toes too. But do you have any of these symptoms? The more symptoms that you have, the more likely you are to be suffering from addiction. And here we go with that, because there's approximately 7.6 billion people in the world that are suffering from addiction, and they have these symptoms. They are anxiety or nervousness, depression, loneliness, unhappiness, discontentment, emotional or physical pain, emptiness, a void, unworthiness, lack of love, lack of acceptance, unsuccessfulness, sorrow, fear, insecurity, sadness, boredom, resentment, self pity, a desire for immediate gratification and pleasure, and finally, suicidal thoughts. Now, do you have one or more of those symptoms? Well, if you do, you're at the right place to hear what we're going to be talking about today. If you have
Excellent.
none of those symptoms, give me a call. I want to congratulate you.
And you can actually reach out. What Dr. Wynn is doing is that if you have a question or if you have a concern, you want to talk to Dr. Wynn directly. Let me just pull this up here for you. You can give him a call. He is going to take a limited number of people that would like to talk to him about this. Clearly, I'm going to just put it up right here. It's a banner. You can call 828-508-7981 and talk directly to Reverend Wynn about this situation. And so we'd love to hear from you. Go ahead and feel free if you would like to do that. That was very kind of you to offer that, Reverend Wynn.
Well,
Um,
Stephen, let me say that I go to bed early because I get up around 3 in the morning to start my day. So please don't call me after 8.
okay, there you go. Please hold off on the after 8 calls, folks. But during the daytime, that's the best time to give them a ring. You're on Eastern Standard Time as well.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. So
That's
now
all.
do you want to get into those
Yeah.
different types of addictive behaviors?
Certainly, you have to start with the symptoms, and if you have any of the symptoms that Dr. Wynn just listed off, then the chances are you've got some type of an addiction. And so, what would be those um types of addictions?
Okay. Well, we're going to do the same thing. Use your fingers or your fingers and toes to count up the problems that you're having when you hear them.
Okay,
And you may have more than one addiction. Certainly that's possible. Okay, they are overeating, codependency or control of other people, substance abuse, which includes legal prescriptions and non-legal prescriptions, marijuana, alcohol, hallucinogens, opiates, inhalants, depressants, stimulants, anabolic steroids. And then we have gambling, kleptomania or shoplifting without a reason, smoking or nicotine, sociopathic behavior, also known as narcissistic personality disorder. And this is a common one, and it's the hardest to treat because these people who are known as sociopaths, especially in earlier years, but now they're narcissists. They don't believe they've got a problem. They believe that you've got a problem. And as you
Wow.
will understand when I tell you what's necessary for curing, the first thing
Right.
is you've got to realize that you've got a problem. So that makes them a really hard nut to crack. And we get back to the various kinds of behaviors: undereating, sexual or non sexual abuse, pornography, workaholism, excitement, power or greed, recurrent plastic surgeries, teenage rebellion, sexual compulsions, overspending, negative thinking, hoarding or collectaholism, and that includes having too many pets. And the final one, which is probably the one that's most rampant in our country today, that most people are addicted to, is TV, computer, gaming, smartphone overuse. And those are
Mm,
the list of the addictions that I can help people with.
that's a
And
whole lot.
that's a lot in there.
Yes, it's a whole lot. But that's so
So,
awesome.
so
And
if
I'm
you have one of these behaviors and it is hurting you in some way or hurting someone you love and you can't stop it for whatever reason, then you are addicted to that behavior.
I
And of
see.
course, along with that, you will also have the symptoms that we talked about.
Is it defined by the fact that you are either hurting yourself in some fashion or hurting your family or your friends that kind of define it as a problem?
Well, yes, Stephen, because who wants to hurt themselves? Who wants to hurt their wife? You know, that's not a normal reaction to life. You want to love yourself, you want to love other people. And if you find yourself doing something that's not doing that and you
Mm-hmm.
can't stop it, then you can say, well, I'm addicted to this behavior or that behavior.
Okay. Well, I think, yeah, I know that I had certainly dealt with some serious addictions in my past, and those viewers that know me know that I did. I don't struggle with the alcohol and drugs thing anymore, which is a beautiful thing. That was the most destructive actual thing that I was doing in my life, and part of why I really wanted you here was because I get to the opportunity to learn and to grow and to reinforce the correct behaviors. It's by learning from you, Dr. Wynn, and I'm just so um, impressed that you've been doing this for 40 years. You have is this a like a weekly podcast that you're doing too as well?
Well, weekly, sometimes twice a week.
Okay,
As soon as I get a new topic that I want to share with the world, I'll do it.
okay, that's so you're doing it on a regular basis and you've been consistent, and that's the important factor. And um the reason why we are doing this show tonight is because I know that Reverend Wynn, who is a doctor, retired doctor, and myself and the LWN Foundation, Live with Nature, we care about you, whether you're suffering currently from a an addiction or know somebody that is. We want to help them. Now, Reverend Wynn mentioned that we have, I see I've got the ticker for the New Life Referral Center. Those that know, and those that don't now, then we do have a referral center for the LWN Foundation, and we're trying to connect people. So if you've got a question, you can call that number, and we'll connect you to people like Reverend Winn. And Reverend Winn offered the opportunity to do a free consultation tonight, so that if you had a question, or you want to talk to him and you can see how he can help you, he's offering free help. So you can call that 828-508-7981 and speak directly to him. Do that before 8 p.m., please, in the evenings. So do that. But now let's go on to we talked about the causes of addiction. We talked about the symptoms that are associated with it, as well as the types of addictive behaviors. Now, what are the 4 spiritual questions that everyone needs to answer for themselves?
Okay, those are questions that hardly anybody answers, but they're simple enough. The first one is, who am I? The second one is, where did I come from? The third is, what am I doing here? And the fourth is, where am I going when I'm done? Now, you can read more about those questions in the book, but the one that relates most closely to what we're talking about tonight is the third question, what am I doing here? And people ask me, how do I find my purpose, my mission in life? I don't know how to do that. So I'm going to tell you. I'm going to read you the question to ask yourself.
Okay.
If I didn't have to worry about what anybody thought, not my parents, not my wife, husband, not my children, not society in general, and if I had no limitations, neither financial, educational, nor of any other kind, what would I want to accomplish in this life that would make me the happiest, most contented, and best justify my existence and help other people? There's your question. You pray that question as often as you can. You meditate for the answer, and it will come. You will get an answer. Sometimes it's right away. Sometimes it takes a longer period of time. When you hear that answer, drop what you're doing, not to the point of quitting your job, but make it a priority in your life to do that and see what a difference it makes, not only with addictive behaviors, but with your general happiness in life. And there's the way to get to your purpose.
That's what I'm hearing. And purpose is so important. I mean, a lot of people might not know what their purpose is. And we were talking about that before the show, how you've been writing about helping people to define their purpose for a very long time, for very before a lot of the other people that might be, well known out there, before they ever thought of it. Fact is, I felt when you were telling me about that, you probably inspired them to do what they did, maybe.
Well, I didn't have my books out there to the level that Rick Warren and Celebrate Recovery,
Right.
because I didn't have the money to do it. But
Yeah.
I was writing about what he got famous for many years before he started.
I mean, I personally, and I'm going to read more of your books as well. I'm certainly going to want to read Freedom from Addiction. Absolutely 100%. I know that I've had that. I just hadn't gotten to reading through that yet. But you have 44 other books. That's a whole lot. But I know that for the Purpose-Driven Life, I've done that personally like 3 times. And it helped me to define who I am. And when we find our purpose, all of a sudden life gets more interesting and more rewarding, doesn't it?
It does. I challenge you to read my book 3 times.
Okay. I will do that then. I have to do that. Now,
someone told me that
I had read that before I knew you, though. That's the thing.
Someone told me with new information, it takes going through it 6 times to get the maximum impact out of it.
And there we have it. Okay, let me get going on that first one. I know that we've got a lot of great information here, folks, tonight. We really appreciate the fact that you're taking time to come and join us. You know, we're talking about addictions tonight. We're talking about some solutions. We're talking about questions. We were talking about the symptoms, the different types, and we're working our way towards, you know, real solutions here. What I'd like to do for just a quick moment is to acknowledge our sponsor this evening, Total Coatings. They're located here in Sarasota, Florida. We appreciate them. They refinish bathtubs and tile, countertops and sinks with a non-toxic porcelain glaze and make them like new, save people a ton of money. And I'd like to go ahead now and introduce you to them. We certainly appreciate you, and let's take a look at this.
We let our bathtub go too long. It had rust in it, it had deep pitting in it, there were chips. I quite frankly thought it was unrepairable.
Total Coatings is a family-owned and operated bathtub and shower refinishing company. We've been around since 2006, but we use a exclusive non-toxic porcelain coating that was developed over 60 years ago by a franchise in California. So the product is very well established. We refinish bathtubs, showers, wall tile, countertops, and even sinks. Customers want to know what makes our product different, and that's, of course, the exclusive non-toxic porcelain. We also don't acid etch the surface, so you don't have to leave your home because of noxious fumes.
I was completely and utterly shocked. It looked like a brand new bathtub. I would recommend Total Coatings to anybody.
Well, thank you, Total Coatings. We certainly appreciate that. If you would like to sponsor a future broadcast, just send us an email at admin@lwnfoundation.org. We'd certainly love to have you get your message out there as well. So we're talking tonight with Reverend and Dr. Winn Henderson. I saw something, and I'm just going to bring this up. This is what, of course, great marketing, I thought. But somebody that came from experiencing recovery several times, and it took me a few times to finally get it right, that's for sure. And I know that we're going to work towards those solutions. And interestingly enough, of course, your solution is the same solution that I came to. And so what I wanted to say is that you had this I caught this thing, and it said something to the effect of save yourself $30,000 on a recovery program or something like that.
Well, actually, you could save 80,000.
80. Well, yeah, 30,000 would be the cheap one, right?
That's the cheap one. But you know, they have 28-day programs where they bring you to their spa or whatever, and they charge you $20, $30, $40, $50,000, and then they let you go. And they haven't cured you, but the cost of my book, I've decreased the price on Amazon, is only $12.
Wow.
And I have a much better cure rate than spending $80,000. So, you know, just think about that.
Yeah. Well, I know that when I was in recovery, they said, look left and look right, and only one of you is going to make it through this. And in some cases, that's a high number if 1/3 of the people actually recover, you know, the relapse. And I tell you, I did a bunch of the relapse, obviously, but until I finally don't have to worry about it now. Every day is a new day, and I have to work at it every single day. But yeah, most people don't succeed, you know, Reverend Winn. Why is it that they don't succeed?
Well, it's because the 1,400 plus treatment programs in the country are secular. They're not spiritual. And the disease is a spiritual disease. And only a treatment program that has a spiritual treatment plan can cure that disease. So you go to a secular program, you're not going to get cured. But we can talk about why this program is so vastly superior to the other 1,400 programs in the country. And I would like to say that if you do three things, you can get 100% cure rate of whatever your addictive behavior is. Those three things are: one, you have to really want to get well. People say, "Oh, I'd like to get well if you could give me a pill," or
Mhm.
"I'd like to get well if I don't have to do much of anything."
Mhm.
But if
Right.
you've got to the point and you've been beaten down by life and by addiction so bad that you're willing to do whatever it takes to get well, you've knocked off the first thing. You remember in the Bible, Jesus came across this man that was sitting by the lake there. 38 years he'd been there. And the theory was that when the water swirled, if you're the first one to get in, you get cured. Well, 38 years and he never got cured. So when Jesus passed by, he said to him, "Wilt thou be made whole?" Now, if the guy had said, "Well, I've been here for 38 years, I'm not sure. People bring me snacks and everything," Jesus would have just passed on, because he knew that that guy didn't have the desire to do whatever it took. And using that biblical example, same thing happens with you if you have an addictive problem. You have to be ready and want to do what it takes. And it's not that hard. Number two, you have to believe that the program that I'm telling you about is going to bring that cure on. Belief is the strongest spiritual concept that there is. If you believe enough in anything, it's likely to come true. If your belief is weak, it's likely not to come true. And I'm going to tell you before we end the program
Mhm.
why you can believe that this is the program for you. I'll prove it to you. And the third thing is, as a result of the first two, if you do the program completely is in the book, and it will take some effort in your time, and you continue to do it. I don't have any successes. Any failures. I have only successes. So that's the guarantee that I'm going to give you. Want to get well, believe you can, do the program, you will get well.
Wow, that's powerful. So you're that confident in the fact that this program works. So how really is this program different than these other 1,400 different secular programs that are out there, Reverend Winn?
Well, I would say that the difference is that this program was created by and came from God Himself. I had a spiritual awakening in November of 1990, where God spoke to me, and He told me that He was sad that so many people in the world were being tricked by Satan, and that He wanted to put out a program that they could use to take care of themselves. And we will get into exactly what He said and how I can prove that it was God that was talking, and how by using what God wanted you to know, every one of you out there can be able to get out of the imprisonment of addiction.
Now that's found in your book, Freedom from Addiction, correct?
It is. It's in chapter 15. How did God reveal His healing plan for addiction? And if you want to do that
Well,
now, We can go
Let me
back.
do this just so everybody can have a look. I think I've got a picture of it here I'd like to share with folks so that they could take a look at that too. Okay, folks, here you go. So this is the book that can change your life.
Well,
What?
actually, the one you got, Stephen, was one of the first
This is,
editions.
and you've
The
got
newest
3 of
one.
them.
Huh?
You've got 3 in this in this series,
I've got
right?
more than that, but
Oh,
I got Freedom from Addiction 1, 2, and 3, The Cure of Addiction, The 4 Questions. The one I want you to go to Amazon and get is
yeah,
Freedom from Addiction 3, the number 3.
the number 3. Okay,
Yeah. And
excellent.
it's similar to that, but not exactly the same cover.
Okay, all right. I grabbed up the wrong cover, but we're on the right topic here, though.
That's right. So, do you want to let me tell you where God came into this story?
I do. I want, you've talked a lot about God. I have a higher power. I call that God, absolutely, and Jesus is my savior. I trust in that and believe that I have eternal life as a result of that. And I want you to tell us how God plays a role in this and how that makes a difference.
Okay. Well, this is my backstory, and I tell it to you, and it could be embarrassing to some people and everything, but to me, it lays the foundation of what God wanted to do for the world.
Let's hear this.
And here we go. In order for you to be able to believe that you can get well from addiction, I am now going to tell you my story. Every word of this story is true, provable, and documentable. But I don't want my personal drama to take away from God's story. And so in this edition, I have abridged the longer version, which you can find in a previous edition of Freedom from Addiction. The addiction treatment program was very important and special to God. He provided all the things needed in order to get this message out to the world. This is not my program. It is God's plan, and that is why it always works, because God never makes mistakes. In the early 80s, I opened a single outpatient family practice in Knoxville, Tennessee. It quickly became evident that many of my new patients were addicted to mood-altering medications, Valium in particular, that had been prescribed by their previous doctors. At the time, the government was making a lot of noise about doctors overprescribing medications, and several physicians in my community had been warned. The government began checking all the pharmacies, and within a year, DEA and FBI agents considered me a person of interest because I was in the middle of a clinical study into Valium addiction, and it was generating a large number of prescriptions. The government started harassing my patients and employees, trying to find something I was doing wrong in respect to prescribing Valium. However, they never came to me to ask me directly why I was writing a large number of prescriptions for that particular drug. They also tried to find fraud in my billing system. They took all my medical files downtown and had people going through them trying to find anything illegal. Still, after a year of continuous investigation, they had found no evidence of any wrongdoing. Now, during this time, I had a problem with one of my employees, who was also the clinical manager. I discovered she was stealing drugs from our pharmacy and reselling them on the street. When I had my attorney draw up a legal document where she had to admit her guilt, she became angry. And I had done this to try to control her behavior in respect to big mistake. And one of my addictions was control, and it came in this form. It was an example of the codependence control addiction. Now, Knowing she could get in serious trouble if I reported her stealing from our pharmacy, she collaborated with the FBI to protect herself from her illegal activities. She wore a wire and arranged numerous discussions with me regarding this ongoing FBI DEA investigation. She told me she would get the government investigation stopped, but she refused to tell me how. If I would pay her $30,000 into a fund for her kids' college education. I agreed. She was very convincing and she was a sociopath. But I would not give her the money directly. I thought I was delivering the money to her investment broker, but he turned out to be FBI. The government was trying to entrap me into a crime of attempted bribery of a government agent. Like a sheep to the slaughter, I stepped into a well-laid trap. I found myself in a staged trial that smeared my reputation all over the newspapers, with a judge who would not allow my defense team to put on a witness who could interpret the wire tapes and vindicate me. My defense team, in preparation for the federal trial, had 2 mock trials. In both of these trials, I was found not guilty, but in the federal trial, I was found guilty. In a typical intimidation scenario, many months later, federal prosecutors threatened me with a longer sentence and the possibility of involving my elderly patients if I did not capitulate and plead guilty to 1 count of overprescribing Valium. Backed into this impossible legal corner and depleted of all assets to fight them, I picked a likely patient and completed the statement they wanted with the federal government. When the experience with the federal government was over, I had a private investigator find that patient that the government had forced me to lie about, and she signed a document stating that she had only gotten the normal amount of Valium for the 2 months I was treating her. In November of 1990, I found myself in a holding cell, which was dark 23 hours a day. It was sheer torture, and I felt completely isolated, unloved, and violated. The first weeks were filled with strong emotion as I prayed and tried to figure out why I was there. I felt incredibly violated for trusting a system that did not do the right thing. I began to really question my life and cried out to God to let me know why I was stuck in this dark hole. And he did not take long in giving me the answer. In a dream vision, he told me, "You possess the knowledge and experience to write a book that I want written about addiction. If you choose to accept this mission, I will protect you while you are in prison. I will provide all the materials needed to write the book and all the money needed to publish it. And finally, when the book is released, they will release you." Well, when God wants to work in your life, he often gives you a dream about yourself, about what he wants you to do, about how he's going to use your life to impact the world. There's a rich history in the Bible of God giving his children dreams for their lives. God gave Noah the dream of building an ark, Abraham the dream of being the father of a great nation, Joseph the dream of being a leader that would save his people, Nehemiah the dream of building the wall around Jerusalem. In the history of the Bible, the foremost way that men knew that God had spoken to them was through prophecy. Defining prophecy is to predict or reveal through written or spoken words divine inspiration. If a prophecy that was attributed to God later came true, it was assumed that it came from God. And the more unlikely the prophecy, the more believability that it had indeed come from God. Now, everyone I shared this prophecy with was convinced that I'd lost my mind. They labeled it jailhouse religion. I, on the other hand, believed that God's promise to me was real, and I set about writing his book. In an instant that I accepted my mission, I was spiritually transformed. I was born again. I looked around me and saw only my Bible and a few meager personal belongings, yet I felt a happiness in my heart that I had never felt before. The prison system is not conducive to creative endeavors. Often napkins became my notepaper, and with the lights off 23 hours a day, I was forced to go to the end of the cage to get enough light to write. Eventually, I was transferred to another facility that had better arrangements, and the entire time, God kept me safe from harm from the other prisoners, fulfilling the first prophecy. He produced the funds, which were $5,000, to publish the book by way of a gift from a fellow prisoner, fulfilling the second prophecy. And when I received a copy of the book in the mail, I remembered God's promise to me that I would be released when the book was completed. And here's the fantastic fulfillment of the third part of the prophecy. Within 40 hours of receiving the book, a guard came to my cell and announced I was going home, fulfilling the third prophecy. My sentence was 33 months, but I had only served 24. And you have to remember there is no parole in the federal system. The chance of those three events happening by coincidence would be much smaller than the chance of winning the lottery. No, this was no coincidence. This was a fulfilled promise of God. Yes, this is God's plan, not mine. I am merely the messenger. And this is why this addiction treatment program works when 1,400 other programs don't. It works because it's God's plan, and God never makes mistakes.
He doesn't make any mistakes, and he doesn't make junk, does he?
That's right.
That's so powerful. So very powerful. I'm thinking that, it's interesting from our painful experiences when we can come through them and process them and come out the other side, which that last step, of course, of it is acceptance of that situation for being exactly as it is. We can use that as a platform for our strength. And I believe that it is God's then intention for us to share that message with others. And that's what you're doing in such a powerful way, Reverend Winn. Thank you so very much. I mean, thank you for sharing. There's lots more that I definitely want to talk with you about and to share with our viewers, because this is kind of like an overview of what you're doing and why you're doing it. And so, as we were talking prior to the show starting, we're going to be having you back, and that's December 7th, as I recall, on the town hall again. And we'll be going over some more stuff again. Now, in the meantime, they can get your book on Amazon, correct? And they can also reach out if they had questions or concerns. They can speak to you directly. But tell us about where they can get the book now and how to go about doing that.
Well, the easiest way is through Amazon. You just say, I want a copy of Freedom from Addiction 3 by Reverend Dr. Winn Henderson, and they'll ship it right out to you.
Excellent. So we highly recommend that. And from the standpoint that you don't even have to have an addiction to be able, but chances are everybody knows somebody that might, right? And that by understanding this information, you can better understand what they're doing, why they're going through it, and then be maybe a positive reinforcement for what you have described as the key to this whole puzzle, that being God.
Yeah, a chapter in the book tells about how you can help a child, a grandchild, your husband, your wife with their problem. And so even if you don't think that you've got a problem, get it to help them.
Exactly. So and that's what's awesome about this program. It speaks to maybe somebody that it might be in, and if you're in addictive addiction, we want to help you. Okay, reach out to Reverend Henderson. Please reach out to him. Reach out to somebody or call our referral line for a New Life Referral Center. We will get you to somebody that can help, like Reverend Winn. This is so dynamic, and that's why we're doing this show, because we want to raise this awareness. We want you to tell your friends about this. If you're just catching it now, tell your friends about this show. Come back again on December 7th, and we'll go into more detail, because there's all kinds of addictions, and one of the things I want to hit on is like the internet deal, and our cell phones, and how we're so addicted to our cell phones. We just don't have time this evening to be able to go over that. We want to thank everybody for joining us tonight, though. Thank you so very much, Reverend Winn. Really appreciate you. Come back. This Town Hall Get to Know broadcast now is 3 nights a week. If you've got a smart TV, you can watch us on Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple and Android TV. Download that E360 TV app or go to e360tv.com. You can go to the lwnfoundation.org and you can watch previous programs on there. You might be watching us right now live on YouTube. If you're on YouTube or you haven't been to our YouTube, the LWN Foundation, please go there and subscribe and share these videos out if you have that ability on YouTube or Facebook or whatever. And I'm going to give you the last moment here, but I just also want to let everybody know, join us Monday for John Spender. John Spender worked with me and helped me to write my first book, The Transformational Change. It's all about this story that I have that led to where I am today on TV, and how I overcame alcohol and drugs and went homeless. But you can get it back. God tells us you can have it all back. And then for sure, Friday, huge. I've got it right here. Actually, I'm saving the other part till later, but this is my personal copy of Think and Grow Rich. We have Mr. Don Green. He is the president of the Napoleon Hill Foundation. Friday, join us. It's going to be powerful, because not only are we going to help you with any addictions that you have through Winn, we're going to also help you how to think and grow rich and apply it to your life and be able to have a successful, happy, enjoyable life. Give us a close out there, Reverend Winn. We've just got about, if you'll just do it quickly in about 30, 35 seconds. Can you do that for us?
Well, my closing thought would be, I know that practically everybody that's listening to this presentation either has an addictive behavior that's hurting them, or has a relative or someone they care about. And there's no point in living the rest of your life being imprisoned by that addictive behavior. This is the answer. I care about you. God cares about you. So try to get the book, find out what God said, and change your life. Turn your life around. You have the power within you to do that.
Awesome. We do have that power. We can do it. We believe in you. Thank you so very much. We'll look forward to the next time here on Town Hall. Thank you so much this evening. God bless everybody out there. Have a great weekend. We'll see you soon. Bye for now.